Amazon link and took down production. So Act 1, so some preliminary information you'll need to understand the story. In 2015, somebody committed this logger call. Pretty uninteresting log statement here, about to publish something. This is RabbitMQ stuff. Just like the address and then the envelope itself, just publishing an event, okay? This thing over here is a little dictionary of context keys, just some information. And we had this little wrapper around the Python logger. I'm gonna come back to that. Just a little wrapper around the Python logger that was taking that context information and just kind of appending it to the end of the logger statement. So you'd see in your server logs, you just see useful information that you would want to know about any given log call, okay? So thing to know, the message envelope contains user input. So this is what that logger statement looks like in action. Not too exciting. You can see the context information is at the end there, and then there's user input in there that's important. Okay, so nothing too exciting there. And this was, again, it was just a wrapper around the Python logger that was creating this context interface, okay? And then to understand the context key in the message in the log format there, the Python logger, if you provide an extra keyword argument, a dictionary, it will match the keywords in the dictionary to your log message format, okay? Act 2, so that was 2015, so 5 years later, migrating this component, and that's all a little bit clunky, having a wrapper around the Python logger all the time, and you have to provide the keyword or everything. It's all a little bit messy. So I thought, okay, I was migrating this component. I can clean that up while I'm in there. And so I got real clever. And I just used a formatter. So kind of wiring into the logging system instead of wrapping it. And what I did, I put anything that was in the context dictionary, that'll show up on your log record in the args. So if you, in your extra dictionary, if you had context equals whatever, like we had in the previous one, you'd have your record.context. So anything that's in that extra dictionary ends up on the formatter. And so I just wired into that, and I said, okay, let me find if there are the context keys that I know about. I will just pull those out and stick them onto the end of the message with little %s signs so that it would all substitute in. And then the record just has all that information on there. And so that works really nicely. So I thought a good solution, because now everybody else is just using the Python logger, and you can use logger.getLogger and all that stuff just works okay. The one change there is that instead of doing context, we use extra as context. Now we're just using the extra dictionary the way we normally do instead of wrapping it and then passing it in later. And what does that gain us? What's the point? Okay, well, you can, if you're using any kind of log introspection tools, this is a shot of Sentry. You can see it's just, it's wiring into the logging system. So if you're using it, it's using it and it's pulling that stuff off. And then we have these as first class information there, as opposed to a additional data context that has all the things in it as a string that you can't do anything with. So, okay, and then, so that was about a month ago. And then Act 3, about a week ago, ominous key fob. We're on a morning call, and one of my guys who's having me on PagerDuty that day, he's hitting me up and he says, okay, there's an issue in production. There's the RabbitMQ queues backing up for this particular component, which is called operator router operator. So we go and look and see what's going on, and we're getting kills, which never happens. Like, kill is a bad sign. You're out of memory on a pod in Kubernetes. Something's gone terribly sideways here, and there's really, we go tail the logs on any given pod, and it's running along just fine. It's running along just fine. Everything seems totally healthy, and we're almost convinced that if we didn't see the queues backing up, we wouldn't be even convinced that there was a problem just watching one of the logs. But it's ticking along, processing messages fine, and then boom, dead. Pod's gone. Very weird. And the only thing that stood out to me was the last thing I was seeing logged on these pods before they got killed is this message. And so that's the routing key and the message data you can see there. So that's this is a message being sent. We run a chat product, so this is a message being sent from one person to another. And I just keep seeing this message over and over again. This keyless remote key fob link in Amazon. Very weird. but you can send URLs with our chat product. It's not gonna, that's not a problem. This is fine. Not sure why I keep seeing this event over and over again. A little suspicious. Okay, total change of subject. Does anybody know what this does? So apparently, that is a %20 is padding with white space, and the second percent sign is just the percent sign. So if you have %%, you just, if you're doing string substitution, you get a percent sign. So apparently, %20% is the percent sign with 20 spaces padded, or at least that's what it's doing on the on these pods in question, not the version. Haven't been running PyPy. Okay. Found that on that's the version from December of last year, updating by 1 to the April version of the most recent PyPy 3 Docker file. We got different behavior. I don't know, a little odd, but anyway, so this message, back to the story. I don't know, anybody see it? Percent, and then it's I think 2.8 billion something. But this is not a problem. It's just a URL. This isn't an issue. Why is this a problem? What exactly is so hard about padding a white space with 2.8 billion, padding a percent sign with 2.8 billion white space characters? Well, it turns out that this is something that was done in Python a really long time ago. It was fixed in CPython in 2011, but it's like variable. It's not explicitly shown anywhere exactly how that's supposed to behave. The documents don't really, they aren't clear on that. So, but so this went away a long time ago, but it's still inconsistent across versions of Python that you happen to be using. So what went wrong here? Well, just sending percent signs is not a problem. You can log percent signs, and that's not an issue. There should have been nothing happening here. In particular, those shouldn't have gotten formatted. However, there is some information out there in Python land. In particular, it talks about never using format strings that come from an untrusted source. That is a security hole. And so when we were logging user input here, that's the pre-formatted string, the message there. But when I made my little change that would start adding percent signs for our context dictionary to pass things in, those are going to be substituted in with message mod args. So your pre-formatted string gets put together, and then the post-formatted string gets put into the log format after the fact. So this message envelope was getting string substituted twice when it used to be only substituted once. It used to just go into the log format without ever being formatted itself. I made the change to make it get formatted itself with the context inputs that I put. And so as a result, when that got formatted and put into the actual log format, that's when the percent, 2.8 billion percent got processed and was killing these machines. And there it is. So I don't know. It just kind of a, I think, I don't know, we thought this was a really funny story. As a postmortem, like in terms of consequences, some message delivery got delayed a little bit until we figured this out. But yeah, I just you know, lesson learned here. Don't build your log statements by adding strings together. Put the format, put your percent signs, put a comma, put your arguments after that, and you can't go wrong. Yeah, thank you.
Any questions?
I'm almost afraid to ask, but would a similar consideration happen with F strings with the newer versions of Python?
I don't know off the top of my head if you would run into that with like a F, percent. I'm not really sure. I haven't tested that myself. The one thing with F strings, the substitution is going to happen when that string is declared, as opposed to if you declare a string with stuff that will get formatted into it at a later point. So I think you I don't know, you probably wouldn't need to worry about that in general, but also if you're using CPython, it just won't be an issue. It'll just error, you know, so, but you're probably okay. I think you're probably okay.
Thank you.
Based on my knowledge, I think F strings are safe, but I'm not sure. I would check. Any other questions?
I guess if you're thinking about F strings, if you're putting user input into an F string, if you're putting that string into something else, then you might start to be careful about that. But as long as user input is getting put into stuff and not stuff getting put into user input, you're okay.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Nick. That was awesome. It's always it's terrible to talk about the when something goes down, but it's always interesting to hear about it. You know, everything goes down sometimes in a different way.
Yeah, like none of these things that resulted in this were dangerous in and of themselves in the slightest, and there was only one instance of this in the whole repo that was log messages being constructed this way. But yeah, lesson learned. I won't suffer those to sit in those repo any longer.